Isabella had always been drawn to the whispered secrets of old places. As a graduate student of antiquities, she felt most alive when surrounded by the scent of aged parchment and the soft echo of turning pages. When she was granted access to the library of the ancient Abbey perched atop the mist-laden hills of Northumbria, it seemed fate had finally smiled upon her. The Abbey's towering spires pierced the gray sky, and its stone walls, weathered by centuries, breathed tales of a bygone era. The monks who dwelled there moved like shadows, their eyes reflecting a mixture of reverence and wariness. Yet Isabella was undeterred. The promise of uncovering forgotten histories ignited a fire within her that no cold stare could extinguish. The library was a labyrinth of knowledge, each chamber leading deeper into the heart of the Abbey's mysteries. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced between the shelves, Isabella's fingers brushed against a book unlike any other. It rested alone on a high shelf, its leather cover devoid of title or inscription, bound by a clasp that opened with surprising ease. Curiosity piqued, she carried it to a nearby table. The pages were frail, yet blank, save for faint, swirling patterns that seemed to shift when not directly observed. A sudden draft chilled her to the bone, but she dismissed it as the old building's temperament. Little did she know, the first page had already turned in a story she could not escape. From that night onward, the atmosphere around Isabella began to change. The warmth of the library gave way to an unnatural cold that clung to her skin. Shadows lengthened and twisted, taking shapes that pricked at the edges of her vision. Whispers skittered through the halls, too quiet to comprehend yet too persistent to ignore. Sleep became elusive, her dreams plagued by faceless figures reaching out from the darkness. Still, a relentless drive pushed her to study the book, convinced that its secrets were within her grasp. She spent hours attempting to decipher the shifting patterns, unaware that they were etching themselves into her mind like a creeping vine. Isabella's isolation deepened as the phenomena escalated. Candles flickered and died as she passed, plunging corridors into darkness. The monks avoided her gaze, their whispers hushes of caution and fear. One night, she discovered an inscription that hadn't been there before. What was lost must remain hidden. The warning sent a tremor through her, but she shook it off as a relic of superstition. Determined, she sought counsel from Father Bernard, the eldest monk, whose lined face bore the weight of untold secrets. His eyes widened at the sight of the book. "You must leave it be," he urged. "Some doors are meant to stay closed." But Isabella's resolve hardened. She could not turn away when she was so close to a breakthrough. As the Abbey's bells tolled midnight, Isabella returned to the library, the book cradled in her arms. The air was thick, each breath a labor. She noticed the silence then, the absence of the monk's midnight chants, the stillness of the candle's flames. Opening the book, the pages now teemed with indecipherable text and illustrations that seemed to writhe on the paper. The temperature plummeted, and from the periphery of her vision, shadows coalesced into figures. They moved closer, their forms distorted, eyes voids of endless depth. Panic surged, but fascination held her captive. A low hum resonated through the room, building into a chorus of anguished moans. The realization struck her. She had awakened to something ancient and hungry. In a desperate attempt to quell the rising terror, Isabella began to read aloud the words as they formed on the pages. Her voice echoed unnaturally, each syllable dripping with an otherworldly resonance. The shadows recoiled, swirling violently around her, a tempest of darkness. The walls trembled, dust cascading like ash. The floor beneath her feet throbbed as if alive. With a final, resonant utterance, the book snapped shut, the force throwing her backward. Silence descended, heavy and absolute. Gasping for breath, she scrambled to her feet, the echoes of the entity's screams fading into the void. Relief was fleeting. The oppressive weight had lifted, but an emptiness lingered, a sense that something was irrevocably altered. Dawn's light seeped through the stained glass windows as Isabella sought out the monks, only to find the abbey deserted. The halls, once filled with whispered prayers, were now hollow passages that led nowhere. Doors that once opened easily were sealed shut, the wood and iron unyielding. Fear tightened its grip as she realized she was utterly alone. Returning to the library, she found the book resting on the table, its cover now bearing a single symbol, a serpentine infinity. Her reflection stared back from its polished surface, but the eyes were not her own. A voice echoed in her mind, cold and distant. "The guardian's burden is past." Horror consumed her as she understood. She had become the vessel, the keeper of whatever darkness the book contained. Time lost meaning as days blurred together. Isabella wandered the Abbey's confines, her pleas for help unanswered. The world beyond the walls was unreachable, the mist-shrouded landscape an impenetrable barrier. Visions plagued her waking moments, glimpses of memories not her own, lives consumed by the very shadows she had unleashed. The weight of solitude crushed her spirit, yet a part of her clung to hope. She delved back into the book, seeking a way to undo what had been done. But the pages were blank once more, the whispers silenced. Only the ever-present cold and the shifting shadows remained as a testament to her fate. Years turned like pages in the wind. The Abbey stood untouched by time, a forgotten monument on the hillside. One crisp autumn day, Isabella sensed a change. Footsteps echoed faintly from the entrance hall, a group of travelers seeking shelter or perhaps drawn by the Abbey's enigmatic allure. Among them was a young man whose inquisitive gaze mirrored what hers had once been. She watched unseen as he explored, eyes alight with wonder. Her heart ached with a longing both personal and dire. When he stood before the book, now resting on a pedestal in the main hall, she tried to scream a warning, but no sound passed her lips. His hands hovered over the cover, oblivious to the shadow that loomed behind him, her own. As his fingers brushed the leather, their eyes met for a fleeting moment. In that instant, she saw her own despair reflected back. The cycle was unbroken, the trap resetting for its next victim. A tear traced down her ethereal cheek as she faded into the darkness, her essence now part of the Abbey itself. The young man's fate was sealed, as hers had been, bound to the endless keeper's role. Isabella's final thought before oblivion claimed her was a bittersweet solace. Perhaps, in sharing this burden, she was not entirely alone. The Abbey remained ever watchful, the book awaiting the next soul driven by curiosity, the next guardian of shadows they were never meant to know.